The morning sky over Neo Sol was clear and blue when everything changed. Admiral Kang Minho was drinking his coffee and reading reports when his aide burst through the door. The young officer's face was white with fear. "Sir, you need to see." "This right now," the aide said, his voice shaking. Minho looked up from his papers. He had been in the military for 30 years and had seen many crises, but something in the aide's voice made his stomach turn cold. He followed the young man to the command center. The main screen showed space above Earth. Where there had been nothing but stars and satellites an hour ago, now there was a massive ship. It was unlike anything humans had ever built. The vessel looked like it was made of crystal and metal fused together. It was 10 times larger than Earth's biggest space station. "When did it arrive?" Minho asked. 15 minutes ago, sir." "It just appeared. No warning, no signals. Our sensors didn't detect it until it was already there." Dr. Park Ji-soo rushed into the command center. She was the head of Earth's first contact team. Her job was to deal with alien species when they met humans for the first time. She had been preparing for this moment her whole career, but she never expected it to happen like this. "Have they tried to communicate?" she asked. "Yes, ma'am. They're sending a message now. It's coming through on all frequencies." The main screen changed. The image of the alien ship was replaced by a face that made everyone in the room step back. The being on the screen looked like a cross between a lizard and an insect. Its skin was gray and covered in scales. Its eyes were black and cold. When it spoke, its voice sounded like grinding metal. "I am Ambassador Velthar of the Galactic Council. I speak for the hegemony of civilized worlds. You are the species called humans from the planet you call Earth." Minho felt his jaw tighten. The alien's tone was not friendly. It was the voice of someone who expected to be obeyed without question. "We have been watching you," Velthar continued. "You have spread beyond your homeworld without permission. You have built colonies on 12 worlds that do not belong to you. You have acted without respect for the natural order of the galaxy." Dr. Park Ji-soo stepped forward. "Natural order? What natural order?" Velthar's cold eyes seemed to look directly at her through the screen. "The order that has kept peace in this galaxy for 3,000 years. The order that keeps lesser species in their proper place." Lesser species? Minho felt anger rising in his chest. "Who gave you the right to decide which species are lesser? We gave ourselves that right through strength and wisdom. We are the Galactic Council. We rule because we are fit to rule. You are not." The alien's words hung in the air like a threat. Around the command center, officers and scientists stood frozen. They had always wondered what would happen when humanity finally met other intelligent life. They had hoped for friendship, trade, and shared knowledge. Instead, they had found bullies. "You will cease all expansion beyond your star system immediately," Velthar announced. "You will abandon your colonies and return to your home world. You will submit to council authority and accept your place as a protected species under our guidance." "And if we refuse?" Minho asked, though he already knew the answer. "Then you will face corrective measures. You have 72 of your standard hours to comply. If you do not, we will take action to ensure galactic stability." The screen went black. The alien ship remained in orbit, silent and threatening. Everyone in the command center looked at Admiral Minho. As the head of Earth's defense fleet, the decision would ultimately be his. Captain Lee Hyun-woo entered the command center. He was Earth's best pilot and the commander of their newest warship, the Defiance, The ship was still experimental, but it was the most advanced vessel humans had ever built. "Sir, I was monitoring the transmission. What are your orders?" Minho looked around the room. These people had dedicated their lives to protecting Earth and humanity's future among the stars. The aliens wanted them to give up everything they had worked for and become pets in some galactic zoo. Get me a connection to the President and the Federation Council. We need an emergency meeting. Yes, sir. What should I tell them? Tell them that someone just made a very big mistake. The communication systems across Earth lit up like a Christmas tree. Every major leader, every military commander, every scientist who had ever worked on space projects received an urgent message. Within minutes, secure channels were buzzing with encrypted conversations. The word spread quickly through the halls of power. First contact had happened, and it was not what anyone had expected. Within an hour, the top leaders of Earth were gathered in the secure conference room beneath the Federation building. President Han Soo-young sat at the head of the table. Her face was calm, but her eyes were hard as steel. Around the table sat the most powerful people on Earth, all trying to process what they had just learned. "So they want us to abandon our colonies and become their servants," she said after hearing the full report. "That's what it sounds like," Dr. Park Ji-soo replied. "I've been studying the language they used. Words like protected species and proper place suggest they see us as animals that need to be controlled." General Yoon Dae-ho leaned forward. He was in charge of Earth's special military projects. His weathered face showed no emotion, but his hands were clenched into fists. "What do we know about their capabilities?" "The ship is huge," Admiral Minho answered. "Our scans show it has weapons and defenses far beyond anything we currently have. But there's something else. The way it appeared suggests they have technology that can bend space itself." "Numbers?" General Yoon asked. "Unknown. This could be a scout ship, or it could be their entire fleet. We have no way to know." President Han Soo-young was quiet for a long moment. She stared at the holographic display showing the alien vessel hanging in space above their world. Then she spoke. 72 hours. They're giving us 72 hours to surrender everything we've built, everything we've fought for, everything that makes us human. "Ma'am, we could try diplomacy," Dr. Park Ji-soo suggested. "Maybe we can negotiate some kind of agreement." "With beings who call us a lesser species?" The president shook her head. "No. They've made their position clear. We're not equals to be negotiated with. We're problems to be solved." Admiral Minho stood up. "Then we need to discuss our options. We can surrender and hope they treat us well. We can try to run and hide somewhere in space, or we can fight," General Yoon finished. "Fight?" Dr. Park Ji-soo looked shocked. "Against technology that advanced? It would be suicide." "Maybe," the general replied. "But there are things they don't know about us, things we've been working on." President Han Soo-young looked at him carefully. "What kind of things?" "Projects that officially don't exist, weapons and ships that are still in testing, ideas that seemed too dangerous or too aggressive for peacetime." The room fell silent. Everyone knew that Earth's military had secret projects. Every nation had always had them, but no one knew exactly what those projects were. "How long would we need?" the president asked. "To deploy everything? 48 hours. Minimum. That only leaves us 24 hours after deployment before their deadline." Admiral Minho smiled grimly. "That should be enough." Captain Lee Hyun-woo spoke up. "Ma'am, with respect, shouldn't we at least try to talk to them again?" Maybe they'll listen to reason. Captain, the president said slowly, what do you think they'll do to us if we surrender? The young officer thought for a moment. Best case? They'll treat us like pets. Worst case? They'll decide we're too dangerous to keep alive. And what do you think they'll do if we fight and lose? The same thing. Exactly. So the question isn't whether we should resist. The question is how. General Yoon pulled out a tablet and began entering codes. Let me show you what we've been preparing for. The main screen lit up with images of ships, weapons, and facilities that most of the people in the room had never seen before. They were sleek and deadly, built with technologies that pushed the limits of human engineering. We call it Project Nemesis, the general explained. We started it 20 years ago, after we found the first alien artifacts on Mars. We knew that someday we might meet other species, and we wanted to be ready. Artifacts. Dr. Park Jasu leaned forward. What kind of artifacts? Weapons and ship parts, very old, probably from some ancient war. We've been studying them and learning from them. Admiral Minho stared at the images. You've been reverse engineering alien technology for 20 years? Among other things, we've also been developing new weapons based on theoretical physics. Quantum resonance bombs that can disrupt exotic matter. Stealth systems that hide ships from any known type of sensor. AI systems that can process battle information faster than any biological brain. The images on the screen showed vessels that looked nothing like traditional Earth ships. They were angular and predatory, covered in weapons that seemed to bend light around them. Hidden bases on asteroids and moons. Massive construction facilities that had been built in secret over decades. My God, whispered Dr. Park Ji-soo. How many people know about this? Less than 1,000 worldwide, General Yoon replied. Everyone involved signed documents that would put them in prison for life if they talked. President Han Soo-young stood up. How sure are you that these weapons will work? Against the Council ship, I honestly don't know. But I'm sure that if we don't try, we'll spend the rest of our lives wondering what might have been. The president looked around the room. These were Earth's best and brightest, the people who had guided humanity to the stars. Now they faced the biggest decision in human history. There's something else, General Yoon continued. Our colonies aren't as defenseless as the Council thinks. We've been quietly building defense platforms around every human world. If they want to take our colonies, they'll have to fight for them. What about our people out there? Asked Dr. Park Ji-soo. Millions of civilians. They're being evacuated to secure facilities as we speak. Operation Safe Harbor began the moment that alien ship appeared. Admiral Minho felt a surge of pride. Even faced with impossible odds, humanity was not going quietly into the night. What do you need from us? Authorization to activate all systems, permission to engage any hostile forces, and most importantly, the knowledge that Earth stands behind every person who's about to risk their life for our freedom. President Han Soo-young looked around the room one more time. All in favor of activating Project Nemesis? Every hand in the room went up without hesitation. Then it's decided. General Yoon, you have 48 hours to get everything ready. Admiral Minho, prepare the fleet for combat. Dr. Park, I want you to study everything we know about Council technology. Find weaknesses. As the meeting broke up, people rushed to their tasks. Within minutes, secret facilities across the solar system began coming online. Ships that had been hidden for years started their engines. Weapons that existed only in classified files were loaded and prepared. Admiral Minho walked to the window and looked up at the sky. Somewhere up there, An alien ship waited for humanity's surrender. What they would get instead would surprise them. 72 hours, he said quietly. They have no idea what they've just awakened. The hidden base on the dark side of Luna had been quiet for 20 years. Now it was the busiest place in the solar system. General Yoon Dae-ho walked through corridors that had been empty yesterday, now filled with hundreds of technicians and soldiers. The sound of machinery and voices echoed off the metal walls as humanity's greatest secret came to life. "Status report," Yoon said to Commander Choi Woo-bin, the leader of Ghost Squadron. The man was tall and thin, with the kind of calm eyes that came from years of dangerous missions. "All systems are coming online, sir. The quantum drives are at full power. Weapons are loaded and ready. My pilots are already in their cockpits." "How many ships do we have ready?" 47 stealth fighters, 12 heavy destroyers, and the flagship. All equipped with the new technology. Yoon nodded. It wasn't a large fleet compared to Earth's regular navy, but these ships were different. They had been built using knowledge gained from alien artifacts, and powered by theories that most scientists said were impossible. Engineer Kim Sora approached them. She was young but brilliant, the woman who had designed most of the new weapons. Systems. Her hands were covered in grease and her hair was messy from working non-stop for the past day. "General, the quantum resonance bombs are ready for deployment. We have enough to arm every ship in the fleet. Are you certain they'll work against Council technology?" "The theory is sound. Their ships use exotic matter for power and shields. Our bombs create a quantum field that makes that matter unstable. When it breaks down, their ships should lose power and protection." "Should?" Kim Sora's face was serious. "Sir, we've never tested these weapons against actual alien technology. We've only used computer models and tests against the artifacts we found. But the math says it will work." "The math better be right," Commander Choi said quietly, "because if it's not, we're all going to die." Meanwhile, across the solar system, similar scenes were playing out. On Mars, underground factories that had been disguised as mining operations were producing ammunition and spare parts. In the asteroid belt, hidden stations were preparing to launch. Even on Earth itself, weapons that had been stored in secret. Locations were being moved into position. Admiral Kang Min-ho stood on the bridge of the Defiance, watching his crew prepare for battle. The ship looked normal from the outside, but inside it was packed with experimental technology. The bridge itself was a work of art, with holographic displays that showed every detail of the space around them. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from Luna Base," reported his communications officer. "Put it through." General Yoon's face appeared on the main screen. Behind him, the busy base was a hive of activity. "Admiral, Project Nemesis is fully active. All units are in position and ready for your orders. How long until we can begin operations?" 6 hours for final preparations. After that, we can strike at any time." Minho felt a mixture of excitement and fear. For years, Earth's military leaders had wondered what would happen if they ever faced a superior enemy. Now they were about to find out. Dr. Park Ji-soo was in her laboratory, studying every piece of information they had about the Council ship. She had been working without sleep since the alien ultimatum, trying to find any weakness they could exploit. "The ship's hull appears to be made of a crystal metal composite," she said to her assistant. "It's probably stronger than anything we can build, but it might have other properties we can use against it." "What kind of properties?" "Crystals can be shattered if you hit them at the right frequency. If we can determine the resonance frequency of their hull material, we might be able to damage it with the right kind of weapon." Her computer screens showed complex equations and molecular diagrams. Somewhere in all that data was the key to defeating the Council's superior technology. On Earth's surface, President Han Soo-young was addressing the planet. Every television, radio, and computer screen showed her face as she spoke to 6 billion people. "My fellow humans," she began, "today, we face the greatest challenge in our species' history. We have been contacted by an alien civilization that demands our surrender and submission. They want us to abandon our colonies, give up our freedom, and accept their rule over us." The president paused, letting her words sink in. Around the world, people stopped what they were doing to listen. "We have been given 72 hours to comply with their demands. I want every human being to know that we will not surrender. We will not abandon our colonies. We will not give up the freedom that our ancestors died to give us." In homes and offices across Earth, people cheered. Some cried, some prayed. But all of them felt the same thing: pride in their species and determination to remain free. "We do not know what the coming hours will bring," the president continued. "We may face hardship. We may face danger. But we will face it as humans have always faced challenges, together and with courage." The transmission ended, but its message spread across the solar system. On the colonies, humans prepared for evacuation or defense. On the ships of the regular fleet, sailors checked their weapons and said prayers to whatever gods they believed in. Back on Luna Base, the final preparations were almost complete. Commander Choi Woo-bin walked among his pilots, checking on each one personally. These men and women were the best Earth had to offer. Volunteers who had trained for years for missions that might never happen. "Remember your training," he told them. "Stay in formation, follow the flight plan, and trust your instincts. These ships are faster and more maneuverable than anything the Council has seen before." Pilot Lim Tae-hyun raised his hand. He was young, but skilled, known for his ability to think quickly in dangerous situations. "Sir, what if their technology is more advanced than we expect?" "Then we adapt and overcome. That's what humans do." The pilot nodded, but Choi could see the fear in his eyes. They were all afraid. Only a fool wouldn't be afraid when facing the unknown. But fear could be useful if it kept you alert and careful. Engineer. Kim Sora made her final checks on the weapon systems. The quantum resonance bombs were loaded into special launchers that could fire them at nearly the speed of light. The stealth generators were working perfectly, making the ships invisible to most types of sensors. "General," she reported to Yoon, "all systems are green. We're ready for combat operations." "Excellent. Begin the countdown." Throughout the base, warning lights began flashing. Computer voices announced the final preparations. In hangars that had been empty for decades, pilots climbed into ships that had never seen battle. Admiral Minho received the final report from all stations. Every ship, every weapon, every soldier was ready. Earth's secret defense force was about to reveal itself to the galaxy. "Sir," his tactical officer reported, "we're detecting movement from the Council ship. It's changing position." On the main screen, the alien vessel was moving closer to Earth. Its intentions were clear. It was positioning itself to attack the planet if humans refused to surrender. "Let them come," Minho said quietly. "They're about to learn something about humanity that they won't forget." Dr. Park Jisoo burst into the command center, her eyes bright with excitement. "I found it. I found their weakness." "What is it?" Admiral Minho asked. "Their ship's power system uses a quantum field generator. It's incredibly efficient, but it has one flaw. If you disrupt the field at the right frequency, the entire system collapses. Can our weapons do that? The quantum resonance bombs are designed exactly for that purpose, but we need to hit them at close range for maximum effect. Admiral Minho smiled grimly. Close range it is. The countdown reached 0. Across the solar system, humanity's hidden fleet powered up their engines and began moving toward Earth. Ships that had been sleeping in the darkness for years awakened and joined the formation. On the surface of Earth, people looked up at the sky, knowing that somewhere above them their protectors were preparing for battle. Children asked their parents what would happen. Adults tried to be brave while their hearts pounded with fear and hope. General Yoon stood in the command center of Luna Base, watching as his life's work finally came to fruition. For 20 years he had prepared for this moment. Now it was. Time to see if his preparations were enough. All units, this is command. Project Nemesis is now fully operational. You are authorized to engage hostile forces at your discretion. Show them what humans can do. The response came back from dozens of ships across the solar system. Roger, Command. Time to go to work. In the depths of space, engines flared to life. Weapons charged. Pilots gripped their controls. Humanity was about to show the Galactic Council that they had picked the wrong species to threaten. The Council had given Earth 72 hours to surrender. They were about to discover that humans had spent those hours preparing for war. The space around Earth was quiet for the last time in human history. In a few minutes, everything would change forever. Captain Lee Hyun-woo sat in the pilot's chair of the Defiance, his hands steady on the controls despite the fear in his heart. Around him, his crew worked with calm efficiency, preparing for a battle that would decide the fate of their species. "Stealth systems are active," reported his weapons officer. "We're invisible to their sensors." "Good. Take us in slowly. We need to get close enough for the quantum bomb to be effective." The Defiance moved through space like a ghost, its experimental cloaking system bending light and energy around the ship's hull. Behind them, 46 other stealth ships followed in perfect formation. They were humanity's best hope, and they all knew it. On the Council ship, Admiral Zethmar stood on his command deck, confident in his superiority. He was a member of the hegemony's warrior caste, bred for conquest and trained in the art of subjugating lesser species. His ship carried enough firepower to destroy Earth's entire surface, and his crew had never known defeat. "Status report," he commanded. "All systems functioning normally, Admiral. The humans' deadline expires in 1 hour. Shall we prepare for bombardment? Not yet. Let them sweat a little longer. Fear makes surrender easier." Zethmar had done this many times before. Find a young species that was getting too bold, show them overwhelming force, and watch them collapse. It had worked for 3,000 years. He saw no reason why these humans would be any different. He was wrong. Captain Seo Minji commanded the stealth destroyer Shadow's Edge from her position in the asteroid belt. Her ship was smaller than the Defiance, but it carried some of the most advanced weapons humanity had ever built. Around her, 11 other destroyers waited in the darkness between the rocks. "Contact from the flagship," her communications officer reported. "Captain Lee is beginning his approach." Acknowledged. "All ships prepare for simultaneous strike. Remember, we only get one chance at surprise." The plan was simple but dangerous. The Defiance would get close to the Council ship and detonate a quantum bomb inside their shields. At the same moment, Seo Minji's destroyers would emerge from the asteroid belt and attack with everything they had. If it worked, they might cripple the enemy before the real battle began. If it failed, they would all die. Pilot Lim Tae-hyun flew his fighter through the outer edge of Earth's atmosphere, invisible to both human and alien sensors. His squadron of 12 ships was positioned to intercept any escape pods or smaller vessels that might try to flee the battle. He was young and eager, but he understood the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. All fighters, this is lead. Stay sharp and stick to the plan. We're humanity's insurance policy. The other pilots acknowledged his transmission. They were all volunteers, all among the best pilots Earth had ever produced. Many of them had trained together for years, never knowing when or if they would face real combat. On Luna Base, General Yoon Dae-ho watched the tactical display that showed the positions of all his forces. Red dots showed enemy positions. Blue dots showed his own ships. In a few minutes, those dots would come together in violence. "Sir," Commander Choi Woo-bin reported, "all units are in position and ready for engagement." "Very well. Send the signal. Operation Freedom begins now." The signal went out on quantum frequencies that moved faster than light. In seconds, every human ship in the solar system received the same message: attack. Captain Lee Hyun-woo felt his heart race as the order came through. The Defiance was now only 5 kilometers from the Council ship, close enough to see the details of its crystalline hull. The alien vessel was beautiful in its own way, but it represented everything that humanity rejected. The idea that might made right, that freedom was a privilege to be granted by others. Weapons, prepare the quantum resonance. Bomb, set it for maximum yield. Bomb armed and ready, sir. Take us in. The Defiance accelerated toward the Council ship, its stealth systems hiding it from detection. In the enemy's command center, Admiral Zethmar stood calmly, unaware that death was approaching at incredible speed. "Sir!" One of his officers suddenly shouted. "Something is wrong with our sensors. I'm detecting quantum distortions." Zethmar frowned. "What kind of distortions?" "Unknown, sir. They're unlike anything in our databases." It was too late. The Defiance materialized out of nothing just 500 meters from the Council ship's hull. Before the aliens could react, Captain Lee gave the order that changed everything. Fire! The quantum resonance bomb launched from the Defiance and struck the Council ship's shield generators. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then the exotic matter that powered their defenses began to break down at the molecular level. Admiral Zethmar watched in horror as his ship's most advanced systems failed one after another. Shield generators exploded. Power conduits melted. The lights on his command deck flickered and died. "What is happening?" he screamed. "Unknown weapon, sir. It's causing cascade failures throughout the ship." The quantum bomb had done exactly what Engineer Kim Sora had predicted. The Council's technology, so advanced and powerful, had a critical weakness. When the exotic matter that powered it became unstable, everything that depended on it failed. At that same moment, Captain Seo Minji's destroyers emerged from the asteroid belt like wolves attacking a wounded deer. Their weapons fired streams of accelerated particles that tore through the Council ship's now defenseless hull. "All ships, concentrate. Fire on their weapon systems," Seo Minji ordered. "Don't give them a chance to fight back." The Shadow's Edge and her sister ships poured devastating fire into the alien vessel. Without their shields, the Council ship was helpless. Explosions blossomed across its surface as weapons and systems were destroyed. On the Council ship, Admiral Zethmar struggled to understand what was happening. These were supposed to be primitive beings, barely capable of spaceflight. How could they have weapons that could neutralize hegemony technology? "Get me a damage report." he ordered. "Weapons are offline. Shields are down. Main power is failing." "How is this possible?" His tactical officer looked at him with fear in his alien eyes. "Sir, I think we underestimated them." Pilot Lim Tae-hyun and his fighters swooped in to finish the job. Their smaller weapons couldn't damage the Council ship's thick hull, but they could destroy the sensors and communication arrays on its surface. "This is for every species you've enslaved," Lim Tae-hyun muttered as he fired his missiles. The Council ship was now blind and deaf, cut off from any reinforcements that might be coming. It drifted in space, powerless and defeated. Inside the dying vessel, Admiral Zethmar made a decision that would haunt him for the rest of his life. He activated the ship's emergency transmitter, sending a message that would reach the Council's main fleet in distant space. "This is Admiral Zethmar of the Subjugation Fleet. The humans. They fight like demons. They have weapons we do not understand. Send reinforcements. Send everything." The message ended as the transmitter exploded, destroyed by another fighter's missile. Captain Lee Hyun-woo brought the Defiance alongside the crippled Council ship. Through the viewports, he could see alien figures moving in corridors lit only by emergency lighting. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the alien ship." "Put it through." The face that appeared on the screen was no longer arrogant and commanding. Admiral Zethmar looked like a being who had seen his entire worldview destroyed in minutes. "Human vessel, I wish to negotiate." Captain Lee smiled grimly. "I thought we were a lesser species. I thought you ruled because you were fit to rule." "I was wrong. Please, can we discuss terms?" "The time for discussion was 72 hours ago. You had your chance for peace." Zethmar's face showed desperation. "What do you want?" "We want you to leave our space and never come back. We want you to tell your council that humanity is not interested in being anyone's pet." "And if I refuse?" Lee gestured to the tactical display, which showed the Council ship surrounded by human vessels. "Then you'll find out what happens to bullies who pick on the wrong species." The alien admiral looked at his ruined command center, at his defeated crew, at the human ships that had appeared from nowhere to destroy everything he thought he knew about warfare. "I will deliver your message," he said quietly. "See that you do. You have 1 hour to repair your engines and leave our solar system. If you're still here after that, we'll finish what we started." The transmission ended. Around Earth, humans watched as the mighty Council ship limped away into deep space, trailing debris and radiating distress signals. General Yoon Dae-ho stood in his command center, hardly believing what had just happened. For 20 years, he had prepared for this moment, but he had never dared hope it would go so well. "Sir," Commander Choi reported, "all our ships are accounted for. No casualties. The enemy vessel is leaving the system. And the colonies? Our people? All safe, sir. The Council never had a chance to attack them." Yoon felt a weight lift from his shoulders. Humanity had faced its first test against galactic civilization and passed with flying colors. But he knew this was only the beginning. "Send a message to all fleet commanders. This was just the first battle. They'll be back, and next time they'll bring more ships." "What are your orders, sir?" "Prepare for war. Real war. Because now they know we won't surrender and they'll try to destroy us completely." The first blood had been drawn, and it belonged to the Galactic Council. The news spread across the galaxy faster than anyone had expected. On worlds that had been under Council rule for thousands of years, beings who had never known freedom watched recordings of humanity's victory. The impossible had happened. Someone had defeated a council fleet and lived to tell about it. Admiral Park Ji-hoon stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Vengeance, as it traveled through hyperspace toward the first council supply depot. His deep strike fleet consisted of 20 ships, all equipped with the new quantum weapons and stealth technology. Their mission was simple but dangerous: hunt down council forces wherever they could be found and destroy them. "Admiral," his intelligence officer reported, "we're receiving transmissions from the Kepler system. It sounds like the local population is rising against their council garrison." Park smiled grimly. This was exactly what Dr. No Yuna had predicted. The psychological warfare specialist had been right about how other species would react to news of humanity's victory. "Any word from the other strike groups?" Admiral Kim reports successful attacks on 3 council outposts in the Vega sector. "Admiral Lee has destroyed a supply convoy near Proxima. The council is calling for reinforcements from all sectors." "Good. Let them scramble. Every ship they send to hunt us is one less ship protecting their core worlds." The plan was working perfectly. Instead of waiting for the council to bring their full might against Earth, humanity had gone on the attack. Small, fast groups of ships struck at council positions throughout their territory, then disappeared before reinforcements could arrive. On the council homeworld of Hegemon Prime, Supreme Chancellor Vextar paced his command chamber like a caged animal. Reports of human attacks were coming in from across the galaxy. These primitive beings were making fools of his forces, and he didn't understand how. "How many ships have we lost?" he demanded. 47 vessels destroyed or crippled, Chancellor, including 2 heavy cruisers and a battle station. "And how many human ships have we destroyed in return?" His aide hesitated. "None, sir. They appear and attack, then vanish before our forces can respond. Our sensors cannot track them effectively." Vextar's 4 arms gestured angrily. The Council had ruled the galaxy through fear and superior technology for millennia. Now that advantage was being stripped away by beings they had dismissed as animals. "What do our scientists say about their weapons?" "They believe the humans have found a way to destabilize exotic matter. Our ship's power systems and shields are vulnerable to their attacks." "Then develop countermeasures." "We are trying, Chancellor, but their technology appears to be based on principles we do not fully understand." Meanwhile, on Earth, Dr. No Yuna worked around the clock in her psychological warfare center. Banks of computers sent messages to every inhabited world in council space. The messages were simple but powerful. The council could be beaten. Freedom was possible, and humanity would help any species that chose to fight. "Ma'am," her assistant reported, "we're getting responses from over 200 worlds. Species that have been enslaved for centuries are asking for help." "What kind of help?" "Weapons, advisors, tactical support. Some are asking if we'll send ships to support their rebellions." Dr. No felt excitement building in her chest. This was better than she had dared hope. The Council's empire was held together by fear and the belief that resistance was hopeless. Once that belief was shattered, the whole system would collapse. "Contact Admiral Park. Tell him we have targets for his next raids. Priority goes to worlds where local populations are already fighting." Commander An Kyungmin ran Earth's intelligence networks from a hidden facility beneath the Sahara Desert. His job was to find Council weaknesses and exploit them. What he had discovered would have shocked the galaxy's rulers. "Sir," one of his analysts reported, "we've intercepted communications from 17 different Council member species. They're not as unified as they pretend to be." "What do you mean?" "Many of the species that serve the Council do so because they have no choice. Some were conquered centuries ago. Others were forced to join through economic pressure. Very few are actually loyal to the hegemony. This was valuable intelligence. The Council's strength came from the combined fleets and resources of dozens of species. If those species could be turned against their masters, the balance of power would shift dramatically. Start making contact with dissidents in their governments. Offer them support if they're willing to rebel against Council authority. Yes, sir. What about species that are already fighting? Give them everything they need, weapons, ships, tactical advice. Make sure they know humanity stands with them. On the mining world of Kepler 442b, a species called the Zephyrians had lived under Council rule for 800 years. They were a peaceful people, more interested in art and philosophy than warfare. But when they saw recordings of humanity's victory, something changed in their hearts. Zephyrian leader Cole Nth stood before a crowd of his people in the planet's main city. His blue skin was marked with scars from Council punishment devices, reminders of what happened to those who questioned authority. "My people," he said, "for 8 centuries we have lived as slaves. We have told ourselves that this was the natural order, that we were too weak to be free. But the humans have shown us something different. They have shown us that even the mighty can fall." The crowd murmured agreement. Across the city council, garrison forces were barricaded in their compound, cut off from reinforcements and surrounded by angry Zephyrians. "The humans have sent us weapons and advisors. They ask for nothing in return except that we choose freedom over slavery. The time has come to make that choice." The crowd roared approval. Similar scenes were playing out on worlds across the galaxy, as species that had been oppressed for centuries finally found the courage to fight back. Admiral Park Ji-hoon's fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler system just as the Zephyrian rebellion reached its peak. His ships were immediately challenged by a Council patrol fleet, but the aliens were not prepared for humanity's tactics. "All ships, execute attack pattern Delta," Park ordered. "Hit them fast and hard, then get out." The human ships split into 3 groups, each attacking from a different direction. Their quantum weapons tore through Council shields like paper, while their stealth systems made them nearly impossible to target effectively. Within minutes, 6 Council ships were drifting wrecks. The survivors fled toward the outer system, sending desperate calls for reinforcements that would not arrive in time. "Sir," Park's communications officer reported, "we're receiving a transmission from the planet's surface. The Zephyrians are thanking us for our support. Tell them they don't need to thank us. Tell them that freedom is the right of every thinking being, and we're honored to help them claim it." The message was broadcast not just to the Zephyrians, but to monitoring stations throughout Council space. It was another piece of psychological warfare, showing the galaxy that humanity fought not for conquest, but for liberation. On Hegemon Prime, Supreme Chancellor Vextar watched reports of the Kepler system battle with growing alarm. The humans were not just defeating Council forces, they were inspiring rebellion across the galaxy. "How many worlds are now in open revolt?" he asked. 63 confirmed, Chancellor. Perhaps twice that number showing signs of unrest. "And our response? We're sending suppression fleets to the most important systems, but our forces are spread thin. The humans keep hitting us in unexpected places." Vexitar realized that humanity had done something no enemy had ever managed before. They had turned the Council's own size against it. The hegemony was too big to defend everywhere at once, and the humans were exploiting that weakness perfectly. "Contact the war fleet. Tell them to abandon the outer sectors and concentrate on protecting the core worlds." "Sir, that will mean abandoning millions of loyal citizens to rebel forces. Better to lose the outer territories than risk losing everything." It was a decision that would haunt the Council for generations. By abandoning their outer territories, they were admitting that their empire was crumbling. Word of the withdrawal spread quickly, encouraging even more rebellions. Dr. No Yuna smiled as she read the intelligence reports. The Council was making exactly the mistakes she had predicted. Fear was making them irrational, causing them to abandon defensive positions and concentrate their forces in ways that made them vulnerable to attack. "Ma'am," her assistant said, "we're getting a message from Admiral Park. He's asking for permission to attack a major Council fleet base." "Which one?" "Rigel Station. It's one of their primary repair and supply facilities for this sector." Dr. No studied the tactical data. Rigel Station was heavily defended, but it was also a critical piece of Council infrastructure. Its destruction would cripple their ability to maintain fleets in a dozen nearby systems. Tell him he has permission to proceed, but remind him that this isn't just about military targets anymore. Every victory we win inspires 10 more rebellions. "Yes, ma'am. Should we prepare special broadcasts about the attack?" "Absolutely. I want every species in the galaxy to see what happens when the Council's invincible fortresses fall to human weapons." Commander An Kyung-min's intelligence networks were working overtime to coordinate with rebel groups across the galaxy. His agents, many of them aliens who had chosen to work with humanity, were providing weapons, training, and tactical support to anyone willing to fight for freedom. "Sir," one of his operatives reported from a world near the galactic core, "the local resistance is asking for heavy weapons. They're planning to attack a Council administrative center. Give them what they need, and make sure they record the attack. We want the galaxy to see that the Council can be beaten anywhere, anytime." The war was spreading faster than anyone had imagined. What had started as humanity's refusal to surrender was becoming a galaxy-wide revolution. Species that had been enemies for centuries were uniting against their common oppressor. On the bridge of the Vengeance, Admiral Park Ji-hoon prepared for his most daring raid yet. Rigel Station was defended by 30 ships and armed with weapons that could destroy planets. But it was also a symbol of Council power, and symbols were important in this kind of war. "All ships prepare for hyperspace jump. Target Rigel Station. Mission: total destruction." "Sir," his tactical officer asked, "what if they have reinforcements waiting?" Park smiled coldly. "Then we'll destroy them too. The Council wanted to see human aggression. Let's show them what our species does to tyrants." The fleet jumped to hyperspace, carrying humanity's war deep into the heart of Council territory. Behind them, the galaxy burned with the fires of rebellion. The galaxy was burning, and President Han Soo-young could see the fires from her office window. Not literal fires, but the spreading light of rebellion that showed on the holographic star map covering one entire wall. Red dots marked Council strongholds. Blue dots showed human forces. Green dots represented worlds in active rebellion. Every day, more red dots turned green. "Ma'am," her aide announced, "General Oh Dong-yuk is here for the morning briefing." The general entered, his uniform crisp, despite having worked through another sleepless night. As Supreme Allied Commander of the Liberation Forces, he coordinated military actions across hundreds of star systems. The weight of responsibility showed in his tired eyes, but his voice remained strong. "Status report, General. The rebellion is spreading faster than we can support it, Madam President. We now have confirmed uprisings on over 300 worlds. The Council's response has been to abandon the outer territories entirely and concentrate their remaining forces around their core systems." President Han studied the map. The pattern was clear. The Council's thousand-year empire was collapsing from the edges inward, like a house of cards falling in slow motion. What about our forces? Are we overextended? Not yet, but we're approaching that point. Admiral Park's deep strike fleets are operating far from their supply lines. Admiral Kim's forces are supporting 17 different rebel groups. We need to be careful not to spread ourselves too thin. The president nodded. Success brought its own problems. Every victory inspired more rebellions, but each new rebellion needed support that strained Earth's resources. Meanwhile, in deep space, near the galactic core, Captain Bayek Jiwan commanded the super dreadnought Terra's Wrath. The massive ship was humanity's newest and most powerful weapon, built using technology captured from Council forces and improved by human engineers. "Captain," her sensor operator reported, "we're detecting a large Council formation ahead. Looks like their Void Reaper weapon." Baek Jiwan felt her blood run cold. Intelligence reports had warned them about the Void Reaper, a Council superweapon capable of destroying entire planets. If the Council was deploying it, they were planning something desperate. "All stations, battle alert! Communications, get me a priority channel to Earth Command." The main screen flickered and showed General Oh Dong-yuk's face. Behind him, the Earth Command Center was busy with activity. "Captain Bayek, what's your situation?" "Sir, we've found the Void Reaper. It's heading toward the Centauri system. Our colonies there have over 50 million people." The general's face went pale. Centauri was one of humanity's oldest colonies, home to families who had lived there for generations. If the Council destroyed it, the psychological impact would be devastating. "Can you intercept?" "We're trying, sir. But they have a significant head start. The Terra's Wrath is fast, but that weapon is designed for long-range deployment." "Do whatever." "You can, Captain. Those people are counting on us." The transmission ended, leaving Baek Jiwan staring at the tactical display. The Void Reaper was a massive construct, more space station than ship, bristling with weapons that could crack a planet's crust. Her ship was powerful, but she was badly outnumbered. "Ma'am," her tactical officer said quietly, "we could call for reinforcements." "There's no time. By the time help arrives, Centauri will be gone." She paused, studying the enemy formation. But there might be another way. On the Council homeworld of Hegemon Prime, Supreme Chancellor Vexitar watched the deployment of the Void Reaper with grim satisfaction. The weapon was a last resort, something the Council had never needed to use in 3,000 years of rule, but these humans had pushed them too far. "Chancellor," his military advisor reported, "the weapon will be in range of the human colony in 6 hours. "Excellent. Make sure the humans receive our transmission before we fire. I want them to know what happens to species that defy the natural order." Vextar's plan was simple but brutal. The destruction of a major human colony would break their spirit and show the galaxy what happened to rebels. Other species would see the price of defiance and return to obedience. He was wrong about humanity's nature. President Han Soo-young received the Council's ultimatum transmission with a mixture of rage and determination. The alien leader's arrogant face filled her screen as he delivered his threat. "Humans of Earth," Vextar announced, "you have brought chaos to our galaxy with your reckless aggression. To restore order, we will demonstrate the price of defiance. Your colony at Centauri will be destroyed as an example to others. Surrender now, and we may show mercy to your remaining worlds." The transmission ended, but its message was clear. The Council was willing to commit genocide to maintain their power. "Get me Admiral Park, Admiral Kim, and every fleet commander." "We have," the President ordered. "Emergency conference, highest priority." Within minutes, the holographic forms of humanity's military leaders appeared around the conference table. Their faces showed the same anger and determination that President Han felt. "You've all seen the Council's threat," she began. "They're planning to murder 50 million innocent people to make a point. What are our options?" Admiral Park Ji-hoon spoke first. "My deep strike fleet is too far away to help. Even at maximum speed, we couldn't reach Centauri in time." "The same for my forces," Admiral Kim added. "We're supporting rebel groups in the outer territories. By the time we could disengage and reach Centauri, it would be over." General Oh Dong-hyuk leaned forward. "What about Captain Bayek? The Terra's wrath is already moving to intercept. One ship against their most powerful weapon?" Admiral Park shook his head. "It would be suicide." President Han was quiet for a moment, then spoke with steel in her voice. "Sometimes one ship is enough. Sometimes it's not about winning. Sometimes it's about showing the galaxy who we really are." Captain Baek Ji-won pushed the Terra's wrath to its maximum speed, racing through hyperspace toward Centauri. Her crew worked frantically to prepare for battle, knowing they were probably flying to their deaths. "Captain," her weapons officer reported, "all quantum resonance weapons are armed and ready. We have enough firepower to seriously damage their weapon." "But not enough to destroy it completely?" "Probably not, ma'am. The Void Reaper is heavily shielded and has escort ships." Baek Ji-won studied the tactical projections. The math was clear. Her ship could hurt the enemy weapon, maybe even disable it temporarily. But the escorts would destroy the Terra's wrath in return. "Ma'am," her navigation officer said quietly, "there is one option we haven't discussed." "What option?" "Ramming speed. If we overload our quantum drives and ram the Void Reaper directly, the explosion would destroy both ships." The bridge fell silent. It was a death sentence for everyone aboard, but it would save the Centauri colony. "How long until we reach the intercept point?" 4 hours, Captain." Baek Ji-won looked around at her crew. These were good people, volunteers who had joined the Terra's wrath to protect humanity's future. Now she was asking them to sacrifice their lives for that future. "I won't order anyone to stay," she announced over the ship's communication system. "We have escape pods. Anyone who wants to leave can do so without shame." She waited for responses, expecting at least some of her crew to choose survival over sacrifice. Instead, her communications officer spoke for all of them. "Captain, we didn't join this crew to run from difficult choices. We're with you." Similar responses came from every department. The Terra's wrath would face the Void Reaper with its full crew, knowing they would not survive the encounter. On Centauri Prime, Governor Yoon Seonju watched the approaching enemy weapon through her orbital telescopes. The massive construct moved through space like a harbinger of death, its purpose clear to anyone who saw it. "Ma'am," her defense coordinator reported, "we're detecting a single human ship moving to intercept. It's the Terra's wrath." "One ship against that monster?" "Yes, ma'am. They're transmitting on emergency frequencies." "Should I put it through?" Governor Yoon nodded, and Captain Baek Ji-won's face appeared on the screen. The young woman looked calm, despite facing impossible odds. "Governor, this is Captain Bayek. My ship will intercept the Void Reaper in 2 hours. We'll do everything we can to stop it." "Captain, intelligence reports say that weapon has heavy escorts. You'll be outnumbered 20-1. "I know, ma'am. But sometimes the odds don't matter. Sometimes you fight because it's the right thing to do." The transmission ended, leaving Governor Yoon staring at the tactical display. 50 million people waited to learn if one brave ship could save them from annihilation. The Terra's wrath dropped out of hyperspace directly in the path of the Void Reaper. The Council weapon was even more massive than the intelligence reports had suggested, its hull bristling with planet-killing weapons. All weapons, target their primary energy core, Captain Back ordered. If we can destabilize their power source, the whole weapon might go critical. Quantum resonance torpedoes armed and ready. Fire! The Terra's wrath unleashed everything it had at the Void Reaper. Quantum weapons tore through enemy shields while kinetic projectiles hammered their hull. For a moment, it looked like the attack might succeed. Then the escort ships opened fire. The Terra's wrath shuddered under the impact of dozens of energy beams. Her shields failed, her hull cracked, and fires broke out throughout the ship. But Captain Baek Jiwon refused to give up. All power to engines, ramming speed. The Terra's wrath accelerated toward the Void Reaper's core, its quantum drives overloading and creating a cascade reaction that would destroy both ships. "This is for humanity!" Captain Beck shouted as her ship struck the enemy weapon. The explosion could be seen from 3 star systems away. When the light faded, both the Terra's wrath and the Void Reaper were gone, reduced to expanding clouds of debris. President Han Soo-young stood in her office, tears streaming down her face as she watched the recording of the Terra's wrath's final moments. Captain Baek and her crew had sacrificed everything to save Centauri, and their heroism would be remembered forever. "Ma'am," General Oh Dong-yuk reported, "the galaxy is responding to news of the Terra's wrath's sacrifice. 17 more species have declared independence from the Council. Their empire is collapsing." The president wiped her tears and straightened her shoulders. "Then we make sure their sacrifice means something. We finish what we started." The Council's attempt to terrorize humanity into submission had backfired spectacularly. Instead of breaking human spirit, it had shown the galaxy the depths of human courage and determination. The empire of fear was crumbling, and freedom was spreading across the stars. 2 years had passed since the Galactic Council sent their ultimatum to Earth. Now, Ambassador Velthar, the same being who had delivered that arrogant warning, knelt in chains before a tribunal of species he had once considered inferior. The irony was not lost on anyone in the great hall of what had once been the Council's Capitol building. Judge Magistrate Huang Yunbi sat at the center of the tribunal, flanked by representatives from dozens of species that had thrown off the Council's rule. To her left sat a Zephyrian elder, whose blue skin bore scars from Council punishment devices. To her right, a crystalline being from the Andromeda sector, whose people had been enslaved for over 1,000 years. "Ambassador Velthar," Judge Huang began, her voice calm but filled with authority, "you stand accused of crimes against sentient life, conspiracy to commit genocide, and the systematic oppression of free peoples across the galaxy. How do you answer these charges?" Velthar's scaled face showed no emotion, but his black eyes held something that had not been there 2 years ago: fear. The being who had once commanded fleets and destroyed civilizations now faced judgment from those he had considered beneath him. "I was following orders," he said quietly. "I served the natural order of the galaxy." "Natural order?" The Zephyrian elder leaned forward. "You call slavery and murder natural? The strong rule the weak. This has always been the way." Judge Huang studied the defendant carefully. Perhaps that was the way, but this tribunal represents a new way, a way where strength is used to protect, not to oppress. In the gallery, Admiral Kang Min-ho watched the proceedings with mixed feelings. The old soldier had gray hair now and lines around his eyes from 2 years of constant warfare. As Supreme Commander of Allied forces, he had led the military campaign that brought down the Council's empire. But victory had come at a cost that still haunted him. "Admiral," his aide whispered, "Dr. Park is ready to present her testimony." Min-ho nodded, Dr. Park Ji-soo had become more than just the head of the Galactic Reconciliation Committee. She was the architect of the new order they were trying to build from the ashes of the old. Dr. Park approached the witness stand, carrying a datapad filled with evidence that would reshape galactic civilization. Her voice was steady as she began to speak. Your Honors, the evidence shows that the Galactic Council's crimes span over 3,000 years. We have documented the destruction of 437 civilizations, the enslavement of billions of sentient beings, and the systematic suppression of technological and cultural development across the galaxy. The numbers were staggering, but they only told part of the story. Dr. Park activated a holographic display that showed the galaxy as it had been under Council rule. Vast regions marked in red to show oppressed systems, thin lines representing restricted trade routes, and dark zones where entire species had been eliminated. But we also have evidence of something else, she continued. We have evidence of the incredible diversity and potential that was suppressed by Council rule. In just 2 years of freedom, we have seen advances in science, art, and philosophy that surpass anything achieved in the previous millennium. The hologram changed to show the galaxy as it was now. Bright networks of free trade, cultural exchange programs connecting species that had been forbidden to interact, and research stations where beings from different worlds worked together to solve common problems. Ambassador Velthar stared at the display with something approaching wonder. This is impossible. The lesser species cannot govern themselves. They need guidance, structure, control. Lesser species? Judge Huang's voice carried a note of steel. Ambassador, look around this courtroom. Do you see any lesser species here? Velthar's gaze swept across the tribunal. Beings from dozens of worlds sat in judgment of him, their intelligence and dignity undeniable. The crystalline representative from Andromeda spoke in harmonious tones that somehow conveyed more wisdom than any council decree ever had. The defendant speaks of natural order, the being said, but there is nothing natural about forcing others to live in chains. The true natural order is for all thinking beings to determine their own destiny. The trial continued for weeks, with witness after witness testifying about life under council rule. Former slaves told of families torn apart. Scientists described research forbidden because it might threaten council power, and artists spoke of cultures nearly destroyed by systematic oppression. But the tribunal was not just about punishment. It was about understanding how such a system had been allowed to exist for so long and ensuring it could never rise again. Dr. Park presented her final report to the tribunal, a document that would become the foundation of galactic law for generations to come. The Council's greatest weapon was not their military might, she explained. It was their ability to convince people that freedom was impossible, that someone else had to make decisions for them. And how do we prevent this from happening again? Asked the Zephyrian elder. By remembering that freedom is not something that can be granted by others, it is the natural right of every thinking being, and by ensuring that no single power ever again controls the resources to oppress entire worlds. The new Galactic Liberation Alliance was structured very differently from the old Council. Instead of a ruling body that commanded from above, it was a loose confederation of free worlds that cooperated by choice. Each species maintained complete sovereignty over their own affairs, while participating in shared projects for mutual benefit. Admiral Minho addressed the Alliance Assembly on the day the new charter was signed. Representatives from over 800 worlds filled the Great Hall, speaking in dozens of languages, but united in their commitment to freedom. 2 years ago, the Council told us that humanity was a lesser species that needed to be controlled, he began. They were wrong about that, just as they were wrong about every other species they oppressed. The assembly erupted in cheers that took several minutes to quiet. But we did not fight this war to replace the Council as rulers of the galaxy. We fought to ensure that no one would ever again have that kind of power over others. The age of galactic empires is over. The age of cooperation has begun. The New Order faced many challenges. Some worlds struggled with the transition from centuries of authoritarian rule to self-governance. Pirates and warlords tried to fill the power vacuum left by the Council's collapse. And there were always those who believed that freedom was too dangerous, that people needed to be controlled for their own good. But humanity had not forgotten the lessons learned in those desperate early days of the war. Earth's fleets no longer conquered and occupied. Instead, they served as peacekeepers, protecting free worlds from those who would enslave them again. Captain Lim Tae-hyun, now an admiral himself, commanded one of these peacekeeping fleets. His ships patrolled the outer regions of the galaxy, ensuring that trade routes remained open and that no new tyrants could rise to threaten the peace. "Sir," his communications officer reported, "we're receiving a distress call from the Rigel sector. Pirates are attacking a merchant convoy. All ships, set course for Rigel. Maximum speed." Admiral Lim turned to his crew. "Remember, we're not conquerors, we're protectors. Our job is to keep the space lanes safe for everyone who chooses to travel them freely." The fleet jumped to hyperspace, carrying humanity's promise to a galaxy that was still learning what freedom meant. In the tribunal chamber, Judge Huang delivered the final verdict in the case against Ambassador Velthar and the other council leaders. The sentences were harsh but fair: life imprisonment for those guilty of genocide, with the possibility of redemption through service to the communities they had harmed. The court finds the defendants guilty of crimes against galactic civilization, she announced. But this tribunal represents more than justice for past wrongs. It represents hope for a better future. Velthar was led away in chains, but not before he spoke one final time. "You think you have won," he said to the humans in the courtroom. "But freedom is chaos. Without order, your alliance will collapse into war and suffering." Admiral Minho stood up, his weathered face showing both sadness and determination. "Maybe you're right. Maybe freedom is chaotic and difficult and sometimes messy, but it's still better than the alternative. And if you're wrong, if your experiment fails, then we'll try again. That's what free people do. We make mistakes. We learn from them, and we keep trying to build something better." As Velthar was escorted from the chamber, Dr. Park approached Admiral Minho. "Do you think he was right? Will the Alliance survive?" Minho looked out through the great windows at the stars beyond. Somewhere out there, ships from hundreds of different worlds traveled freely through space, carrying goods and ideas and dreams that had been suppressed for millennia. "I don't know," he admitted. "Freedom doesn't come with guarantees. But I know one thing. We've shown the galaxy that tyranny can be defeated. Even if our alliance eventually fails, that knowledge will survive. No one will ever again be able to claim that resistance is hopeless."